my biggest sacrifice has been focus, because I have had to develop in spaces that were not made for me. They were not ready for the inclusion of my identity, the inclusion of my perspectives. And so there was a lot of adversity to try and splinter me and my perspectives out of spaces as I navigated the professional workforce as well.
All right, so greetings and salutations, good people. My name is Ernest Comer III, and welcome to Pancakes From Scratch Podcast. I love to talk to good people doing good things, and today is no exception to the rule. I have the one and only Maliza Kalema. It's great to see you today. How you doing?
It's good to see you. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the internet and technology that can connect us in these busy sojourns of ours. I'm doing good.
Absolutely. Love it. Glad to hear it. So I mentioned before we got started, I got just a handful of questions I like to dig into for everybody. But before we dive in on the conversation, what is giving you energy this week?
Kids. I am so happy to be back to children. We'll get into it in a conversation, but children have always fueled my journey. And so I've just been, as a founder, as a professional, so deep in development and just other ventures that I'm like, where are the kids? And so this summer we're bringing them back, and their applications are coming, their ideas are coming, their questions are coming, their everything, and they're just fueling it. I'm like, the kids are here. It's them for sure.
I love it. So I'm glad the kids are giving you energy. My kids are also giving me energy. They're running around the house. I'm trying to figure out how to manage everything. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful to have them around. It's beautiful to give them a chance to experience summer and get a break from the monotony of the everyday school experience. I don't know if it's giving me energy the same way it's giving you energy, but I appreciate it either way. Oh man. So Maliza, one of the things that I really like to get our conversation started with is, when you think about some of the challenges that you've had to face in, growing and becoming who you are, is there one that stands out to you as a challenge that really molded the person you've become?
Such a big question. And there's so much that molds us. But I think service has molded me and has given me a compass and a grounding for how it is I'm supposed to navigate all of me, all of my contributions, all of my choices. My energy goes towards service because that's my life. That's what I've been given, from the home to the classroom, to even as a young professional. So many people swooped down and said, hey, this is how you send a professional email. Or I think about, El Kati, who volunteered to come to North High and teach me a Black history that my school district said no to, that I would never have gotten, and give me a consciousness very early on about who I was. That was service. That was a volunteer thing that he did. And I watched them do it. And so I didn't just get the calling to service very young, but I also got the model of what it would look like. And so when I came up against challenges, and I do come up against challenges, I expect them. I see the hardship. I see the wear and tear on my elders. I see the sacrifices that families have made. I see what professionals are doing every day to make service a part of their mission. And I say, if I had not had this upbringing, I would not be ready for this. It would be too much. But it's exciting. It's what can I do? How can I do it? Okay, this doesn't work. Let me try it this way. But yeah, from cradle to the grave, I think it's gonna be service.
No, I think that's major. And I think you make a really good point about the fact that service doesn't come without sacrifice, right? And so when we think about this idea of being a resource to the people that we want to serve and the community we want to serve, and striving for the impact that we want to have, a lot of that comes with the sacrifice of some piece of yourself sometimes. It comes with the sacrifice of time, of energy. What does that look like for you? What would you say you had to sacrifice uh, in service to the cause that you lead?
It's a long list, but to whom much is given, much is required. So is it really a
Mm,
sacrifice, or is it a learning lesson? Is it seasoning? Is it getting me ready for the next thing?
yeah.
So I can't sit here and complain and say I've had to sacrifice so much, but I have had to go through unique circumstances and experiences that I know I only had to go through because I'm me.
Mm,
And I think that is a sacrifice, because that has been a cost, not a propeller.
that's it.
Coming from, a North High in 2006, North High was graduating about 30% of its seniors. They were
Mm,
calling us a dropout factory. Don Samuels, I love him, but he called us a dropout factory. And my little 12th grade self wrote a letter and told, we're a garden, you need to water us.
come
Like I've
on.
been here since high school, figuring out how to get an extra project or be in somebody else's business, which is also a sacrifice of focus, because I am a called professional and I do have a mission. I do have an area of impact. And so it's like your focus, for me, my biggest sacrifice has been focus, because I have had to develop in spaces that were not made for me. They were not ready for the inclusion of my identity, the inclusion of my perspectives. And so there was a lot of adversity to try and splinter me and my perspectives out of spaces as I navigated the professional workforce as well. And those sacrifices of being quiet to stay alive in a
Mm,
professional room, that's a sacrifice of humanity, that in my early career I can say I've had to make. I haven't had to make. I have thought that I had to make.
yeah.
Um, so when I think about the sacrifices, I think about those moments. I think about the moments where I felt powerless. I felt like I was in a position or role to make great impacts on communities that I cared deeply about. And I felt powerless as far as accessing the actual decision-making power to
Mm,
implement change. And so the sacrifice again was focused, because it's at play is arguing with dynamics and realities that have nothing to do with Black kids in North Minneapolis graduating at a higher rate than 30%, or
mm,
so on, so on, so on.
yeah.
So I'd say sacrifice has been focused, but the focus needed to be diverted, to be developed and seasoned, to have the consciousness and awareness to be able to navigate and negotiate the spaces that I'm going to have to do, because I care about kids right here. So I'm going
That's it.
nowhere, my home.
That's
So
it. I
everybody
love
got
it.
to get coffee.
Come on now. That's it. But oh man. So what's resonating for me is that experience, especially being early in your career, of feeling like you don't have a choice, right? And being in these spaces that don't feel like they're curated for your success, that don't feel like they are intentionally including you in the work, but you've been invited almost as a token, or you've been invited um, as someone who they're willing to tolerate in the space.
I'd like
How
to
do you
depersonalize. It's
go
not
ahead?
about me. Okay, thank you.
Say
Sorry.
more. No,
But
say more.
I like to depersonalize it, because a lot of times when we advocate and speak up for some of these sacrifices to be removed from the dynamic so we can get to
Yeah.
work, a lot of times we're speaking in the language of victims, as if
Mm,
I am, as a personal Black woman, saying I've been victimized and I can't have the power that I need in the room. That's not the issue. The issue is that in spaces that impact change, my
yeah.
perspective cannot make change. Um, that's the problem for all of us. I'm not a victim here. That's all. Um, and I think the more that we can narrate it, where my advocacy or my speaking out on the sacrifices that I have to make in trying to implement change in the educational ecosystem, is
Yes.
never about me. It is always about the lack of impact that we are missing out on. that we have the opportunity to actually do if we allow all voices to be heard. My voice comes from the communities that we want to impact. I'm a graduate of North High, a first generation college student. I've gotten the academic scholarships to navigate I don't have to, but I earned my stripes, and my voice is speaking for our people. And my voice is not about me. And it actually, it detracts from my voice to make it about me, because it's case by case by case by case by case after that.
Now, where did this mindset come from? This is because everybody ain't thinking like this. Everybody is not thinking like this.
This is, maybe Howard, maybe an El Kati taking time out of his day to tell me about my history, maybe about knowing who I am, maybe about knowing about the history of Minnesota. This is not me. This is Brittany Lewis making a redlining PBS special at the University of Minnesota. This is a Tawana Black having a Center for Economic Inclusion and building it and letting us watch. This is not me. This is a Howard University saying, look to the left, look to the right. It's on you. Get to work. Truth and service, global leadership. That's what this is what we've been instructed to do. And so when I get in the workplace, it's like, who is this girl? And it's like, it's exactly what I've been made to do. I'm a North High grad. They got scholarships that allow me to navigate into some new rooms and still bring the voice of the people. That's, this, it's not special.
How do we encourage, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. How do we encourage the people around us to graduate into this frame of thinking? Because it feels like a very powerful frame, a very collective and a frame that is acknowledges the unity that's required for us to win as a collective. How do we encourage the people around us to graduate into this frame of thinking?
First of all, I think we stay healthy and we stay listening and centered.
Yes.
Because Howard can instruct me on what the needs are for North Minneapolis this summer right now.
That's it.
My ideas are not actually the most important thing. The most important thing is how are the kids? That's what I'm asking. How are the children? Because numbers should say, and I've done the research. I am the research. I am the dropout factory. When I got to Johns Hopkins, that was the same institution that gave the publication to call my school a dropout factory. You paid for this 4.0.
Come on.
So this development process has also done something for me that I have to think about in the terms of empowerment, because everyone's not going to have that story. The numbers don't even say that it's possible for anyone to have that experience. I don't know what happened. I had a 3.3 out of high school. I am not special. I'm very blessed. Like, oh my, I had to call I was in another volunteer service project, College Possible. It's called, it was called Admission Possible when I was in it at North. And my coach helped me. I started with a 19 on the ACT. He volunteered, he tutored me, and my score went up about 10 points. That's how I got that scholarship with the 3.3. I had a 29 on the ACT at North at a time when we weren't doing that well. But I say that to say, statistically, how is that supposed to happen at North? When 30% are graduating, how many get to stay after school with that one volunteer who's actually willing to put it in the work to actually push progress? Because just because you tutor don't mean you push progress. Or just because you're in community doesn't mean you push impact. And so I think we have to empower community to have keen eyes as well, to do their own listening and to do it with a lens that has an awareness for what is going on and what are we looking for in terms of wellness? What are our indicators of wellness here in Minnesota? And for me specifically as a founder, our eyes are set on North Minneapolis in Minnesota. Our research is on North Minneapolis in Minnesota, the academics in these schools right here, because that focus allows us to listen and to say, hey, last year, about 3 weeks ago, just so you know, right on time, your outcomes for literacy had stark disparities for not only Black youth, but Karen and Karenni youth. for Somali youth, for indigenous youth. I mean, this is across our city in so many correlated pockets of impact that you're talking about entire families just no. You're going to need a memo. You're going to need an update. You're going to need eyes on you, Minnesota. And we have the research for that. But I'll be quiet because, I can talk about this all day. I really can. But I think that it's about community talking about it,
That's it. And I think it's a powerful point to, focus on shifting that narrative from the individualized victimization of a student to acknowledging the errors of a system and the opportunity to see something different if we can actually identify where our focus needs to be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We got to be thinking.
You have the platform. Like everyone is developed. I'm so proud of what I see happening around in community as far as creators and contributors. There's a boom. And people are creating, and it's within their purpose. This platform I need, right? Like, because I want to be around a tree reading to some kids. That's my purpose. After we're done with this, and someone else is, eyes on the legal system or the child welfare system or family preservation, or, all of our systems need eyes and they need awareness. And so I've tried to even make our model not about me, and that I'm always going to share another opportunity. I'm sending grants and DMs that I'm going for too, because we all got to win. I'm like Issa, I'm rooting for everybody.
There you go. I love it, man. So say a little bit more about what you're working on now. I think you've got some powerful things that you have underway. I'm super curious about, how you articulate what it is you do.
Okay. Well, I love Black children. I'm an educator. I started as a special educator, and I learned, how do you help people learn? Like, if you could just watch someone and figure out what they're doing and know where maybe they're possibly making mistakes and give accommodations and modifications, like, how do you get this art of pushing progress? And the learning process is me. And I've always had this drive to think about how that can be everybody else too. How everyone else can be armed with the knowledge of, how do you learn? How do you push your progress? How do you see a skill, get a skill, and add it to the toolkit so that you can be on your way to your mission, on your purpose? That's what I want to do for Black children here in Minnesota. That is what I wish my educational process had. That is what I think I'm skilled and expertise to give. That is what I think I spend every day thinking about. I'm good at. Pick me, Minnesota. Pick me. That is how I articulate what we have, because we have an organization, an educational service provider that can provide globally diasporic connection, first of all. When we think about the African-American experience here in Minnesota, in the US, wherever, there is a displacement that causes a disconnection to identity. And it's very reparative and restorative for African-Americans to get a sense of identity at the beginning, onset, and throughout their educational process. That's not an argument. But in Minnesota, it seems to be that we have delays and blocks around that being the lived reality of students. Why? We can give it. We have Black mentors, we have African mentors, we have Caribbean mentors, we have Afro-diasporic connection in our mentor framework to make sure that our kids are exposed to it. And guess what? We will borrow them to you for a great experience that kids can have. We have pop-up programming. One of those things that we're working on this summer, I'm so excited. It's the best. I'm a new founder, so I get so excited when one of my ideas is like, the kids are going to see it. There's so much in the book, but we're doing children's business fairs. And this is where children get to develop their own business ideas, hire their teams or their staff, or come up with their logo, or do whatever they do to drip and come to the children's business fair. And It's my job to get people there, and us corralling and supporting them as they launch at a one-day business fair in July. And it's just gladdening my heart to see their ideas, to see their creativity. First of all, I thought this was going to be one kid at a lemonade stand, and this is not what this is. This is not what this is. These children are so amazing, and they give you no excuse to be negative, no excuse to slow down. They don't have no money, and they are starting businesses, and they are going to come to the Children's Business Fair, and they are going to make money. And it's inspiring to watch. That's what we're doing now. We're doing some college and career boot camps in spring, because this is my time to be like, juniors, it's time to get a professional email. It's about to happen. If you want it to happen, it's time. It's time. So I'm corralling on my kids in August. We're getting them emails. We're getting them essays drafted. We're getting that Common App started. I'm doing what I do as an educator. That's what my business is. And I'm bringing kids exactly what I think I should have. We're reading around trees and having African elders read to them. We're calling libraries and saying, hey, can we go ahead and designate for you, give you a Black literacy database? And can we pull those books off the shelf and do an event? We're thinking about what are some things we can do. Stop letting kids sit here for years upon years with the same malpractices that I saw as a kid, with the same lag in data response that I saw as a kid. 33% should not be graduating right now.
Come on. Listen, because the truths of these circumstances, they last too long. Right? The fact that because it was true 10 years ago, 20 years ago, how is the truth from 20 years ago still a truth today?
Yeah.
What sense does it make? Right? In the age of YouTube and Facebook, what did we even have pagers? What are we talking about? It's a whole new world. The world is brand new today. The truth cannot be the same in any context. It makes no sense to me.
And if it does make sense, for who?
Come on now.
That's what I have to ask, really, with this is my chest. This is as much chest as I have. But for who? Whose children does this make sense for? Whose community does this make sense for? Because a lot of the people trying to convince me in back rooms that this makes sense. We talk about sacrifices. Sacrifices have been taking blocks from people who are not of community, from people who drive in and tell us that, no, we don't need to do that right now. Oh, really? Well, suggestions? How else would you like to get to work? I'm a collaborator. I'm very flexible. One thing that my background has also done is tell me how to make it. I will warm a can of soup on a radiator and make it. I will eat school lunch and make it. There's not a problem. The grit and resolve that I have for hard work is never a problem. It's always just the non-movement. I would say my business and how I articulate myself as a professional, I'm a part of a movement. We gotta move.
That's it. Oh man, I love it. Okay, so when you think about the experiences that you've had, now that you're a founder now, you're building some incredible things, you got some amazing things happening. But before that happened, right, there were all these experiences that led up to this moment. Is there an experience that stands out to you as something that you're just extremely grateful for and has helped you become who you are today?
Yes. And then before I was a teacher, I actually was a college student trying to make some extra money at a high-performing charter school in DC.
Okay.
At that school, I was promoted 6 times in the time that I was there, but I was promoted just from, I'll learn that, reading specialist, what you say, where you at? It's, we from North, that academic scholarship, just tuition, I need books, like my nails done. And so I was always raising my hand for opportunities. And that's how I got seasoned. And when I graduated, I applied to be a teacher, and they said, take a year and do this. It was like an intervention specialist role. And then after that, if you want to teach, you can be working on developing for the next school year. I'm happy here. I'm developing. Sure. So what I actually did was, when I graduated, was I had a cohort of special education students that I was only tasked with intervening. I was just the interventionist specialist. And we had an inclusion model where they would go in the classroom and they would do the same work as everyone else. And I just bounce around the room and intervene. Be like, oh, you see right here, remember we talked about regrouping. Well, now you're gonna have to put that one on top, otherwise you're not gonna make it with the rest of the class. Come on, go. Oh, remember when we said we gotta, this where the teacher at. Let me go ahead and highlight this right here so your eyes go here. We had very active learning, but what we saw is kids grew. We watched them, because if I'm in this with you, it's not just go do your homework. It's not just learn the math and look at teacher. You weren't looking at the teacher long enough. It's, I know as a special, and then I learned too, as a special educator, this student has a different recall of looking from board to paper. Okay, he carries it different from board to paper. He didn't carry it down. He needs help here. So I got to see, where do students need the help? And I really grew as an educator. And then I got a student with Down syndrome. And everybody told me, it doesn't matter what you do. This student, because I started to feel myself as an interventionist. I really saw kids grow. I was like getting my teacher, felt like almost a pseudo teacher. Like, I could teach you. Young, very young.
I got you.
I was very excited about being a teacher, watching YouTubes in my spare time, taking homework packets and looking at, so I was into it. And when they told me that we were getting a student with Down syndrome, this is a public charter, we don't refuse students. There was a lot of talk within the special education department about how he would be set up when he got there. Now, I'm all idealistic and in my special education books, and I believe in all my kids, and don't nobody need to be set up. We need to watch him and see what he needs, right? That's what we are supposed to do. That's what the paper says. That's what I've studied says, and I'm new to this. And what I saw was that that student and that family came against unspoken challenges and barriers, all based on assumptions about their abilities before they got there. And I just simply believed in them. I believed in them. I took that student under my wing. Can I say his name? I don't know. I hope a little Mr. Sovereign is out there, because that student, he just made me believe that anybody can do it, because he could do it. We put numbers on Post-it notes, and you touch this Post-it note 6 times with your finger before, so you concretely know this is 6. And then you touch this Post-it note right here with 5, and you concretely know this is 5. And then we moving on, and we putting them together, boy. We're putting them together. Okay, I was into this, and he was into this, and I became a real educator. It wasn't about anybody else, but really intervening for my students. And I'm deeply grateful for that experience. I'm grateful for my advocacy, for being young enough to believe. I wrote the state for an alternative. We had what's called DC CAS at that time. And we wrote the state for an alternative version of the DC CAS so that this student could take the same state test as everybody else, because he's going to get mastery on math. I was a special education mastery teacher. He's going to get mastery on math.
Okay.
Would you like to guess what Christian Sovereign was in the 4th grade at DC Prep with Down syndrome, with 23 chromosomes? My baby was mastery proficient, okay? And the reason why is because he knows he can do it. He's seen this test before. Let's go. And you gave us the accommodations and the modifications to do it how you do it. That's all that we need. When I got to Minnesota, I'm ready to still arm kids, and I'm ready to still believe in them. And I'm seeing classrooms where we're locking kids in rooms with paras because we don't like their behavior. Well, how is he going to learn? How is she going to learn? And so it just became more and more of a campaign to say these kids can do it if we give them the experiences to do it. Oh, you say you can't give them the experiences to do it? Here's a children's business fair. Oh, we can't. Our counselors can't meet with the high schoolers, at least, I mean, at the end of their junior year to get them ready for senior year. We can continue to miss that deadline and just let kids go to the summer and not tell them anything about how to get ready. We can continue to do that. Oh, here goes a college and career boot camp. I am one woman, and I bet you we pop it off. And not only will we pop it off, we will pop it off with the diasporic mentors that they are missing in terms of representation. And the state cannot answer the call of representation. And so it's like we're coming with a solution and we're unapologetic about it because it's a campaign that I've had since I was a child. And I've been told, no, you can't, no, you can't, no, you won't. Christian sovereign will be proficient. Our kids will have, a different experience than I had. There's no reason for this. Get them out of that room and send them that parent a letter within 10 days that you want to do a determination on whether or not they should receive services from you.
That's it.
Until then, he's going to need access to his classroom.
Come on.
I love Black children.
It's the intentionality, the commitment, the persistence, and the certainty that the students can, right? That the students can learn, the certainty that the students can learn. That's what did I heard from somebody that one of the most important things that educators can do is believe that their students can learn.
Is it Rita, the TEDx, short blonde hair?
So. That sounds familiar. Okay.
A very inspiring educator.
I mean, come on. And it's just, it only makes sense. It only makes sense that if the educator in my classroom believes that I can learn, there's going to be a different level of commitment to my learning experience. It only makes sense. We have to invest in making sure that these students get access to the opportunity to have a classroom led by a person with belief in their capacity to learn. I think that's too important to ignore. It's too important to
just be back every season. We are, we got the brand, the Sown Emancipation. This is a harvesting, planting for there's different times in the industries that we serve. The education has gone through a lot. And we are very nimble. When COVID hit, instead of us saying, schools, get a program for us, give a training to your kids, bring our mentors to your space. That's not what we said. We said, families, what's going on? Let's listen, let's hear. And our project in 2021 was a school equity report card where parents could report on what was happening as far as communication with their school, as far as the the disciplinary spikes in their schools. People don't want to talk about it, but during COVID, we've always talked about school push out in Minnesota. But when those teachers got stressed and those school spaces got stressed, there was less tolerance for behavior, and we saw a spike in those disciplinary reactions in schools. And what you saw was a lot of conflict between parents and schools. And I, within the professional space, am at the helm of enrollment and network recruitment, talking to parents about going to a certain school, but hearing they're not happy. They're not feeling like they're equitably included. They're not feeling like when you guys give announcements, you're even giving them in translation to how you have a mostly 40% Somali school, or 90 in some schools in St. Paul, almost 90% Karen and Karenni, excuse me. And no translation, no translators. This is a new displaced population from Burma as of the last few decades here in Minnesota. You done had some time. We have also archetypes within the Minnesota specific landscape. When we think about the Somali narrative here, we can draw parallels. Where are some Karen and Karenni translators for these parents? How are they going to read these announcements and know what's happening with their kids and know these moment by moment changes with Corona and COVID and know that their kids are safe if you can't speak to them? And why don't you think that that's a problem right now? Or these are the things that we saw. And so that's why my business said, we're doing a school equity report card, because we can. We are answering the call of North Minneapolis. We're focused, and not just North Minneapolis, just say South Minneapolis too, because we're aware. We're aware of what comprehensive district design has done to Minneapolis. We're aware that our students are no longer pocketed into the high poverty corners of the city as they were. We're aware that families are moving and transient. And so we're going to be all over the city as well. But I mean, we've said it. We are focused on a specific community. And yeah, that is, I think, the call of Sowing Emancipation and why we change our initiatives. It's why I think entrepreneurship is exceptionally important right now. We're sponsored by an international sponsor out of Spain. And we're creating exemplars, right? We're saying like, hey, how can I, as a frustrated teacher, say, you know what, you guys aren't working, leave and hold a full-time job, and in my spare time, create the reality that you said was impossible. How is it possible? It's here. Do you want to refuse it this season? Because we will be back.
Please no.
And we probably will have grown bigger and bloomed bigger flowers and have a better answer. You know, after Spain backs the Children's Business Fair, I plan to go to the 10-month MBA program. And they're going to teach me how to build my business from sitting around a tree with kids reading, which is what I really want to do, which I'm going to get to. And when they teach me how to make this business the inevitable answer, then we can get to work. And that's why, you know, this whole journey of sowing emancipation is just sowing and reaping more and more impact. And the impact is evident. Community is evident. There's nothing I have to do but just give and do, you know.
That's it. That's it. Oh man. Woo. Okay. Man, you are getting it done.
Pray for me.
Listen, believe it. Prayer's on the way, because it's necessary. It's necessary, and it's appreciated. I want you to know that the work that you're doing is not going unnoticed, and it is very much appreciated. I'm sure the impact that you're having is felt deeply by the folks that you touch, and it's powerful stuff. You got something very, very impactful happening, and I just want to encourage you to keep going. And it's it may not always be an easy road. It worth it though. Thank
you. That's the little juice I needed.
That's
it's worth
it. Man. So, okay. So one of the last things I like to get into in these conversations is, you know, I've been exploring what's at the intersection of food, culture, and ambition. Okay. Because folks like you don't just happen. Okay. Folks like you have some incredible experiences that shape an incredible person, that allow you to do incredible things. But I think part of that story has to do with the meals you shared with the people you love, and how those moments shaped who you've become. Okay, so all that to ask, did you have a favorite food growing up?
Yes, and thank you for all that nice words. I'm like all humbled by it. A favorite food growing up. I like cream cheese Danish a lot as a kid, and it only surfaced, you know, ever so often. So when it came, I was, oh, strawberry cream cheese too. That could really do it. If you had strawberry cream cheese Danish alone, wow. But a drizzle of strawberry, man,
okay,
it was a treat.
Now tell me this: did you get it from a specific store or from a specific place? Where did the cream cheese Danish come from?
You know, typically it looked, if I'm rejogging my visual memory, I'm thinking of a Costco container type of thing in my house growing up. And it's also the fondness of the memory, because if it just appeared, wow. Upgrade to the snacks for the next few days. It's on the counter. It is here. You know, yeah, that could stop the show for me.
That's it. And what's funny is, like, when you think about these experiences with food, it's never just the food. Okay. It's never just
Mhm.
like, oh, it tastes really good. No, no, no. It's usually something like that, that surprise, like you said, like, oh, snacks is upgraded. Somebody love me. Somebody love
Exactly. Like,
me. They
ooh, yes, mama, yes. Mother said you deserve it. You know, because we
that's
didn't get
it.
snacks like that in our house. We were grab an apple type of family,
Come on.
sparkling water and juice type of family. We didn't have soda and no pantry. So to just see a delicious
Come
iced,
on.
drizzled ice. I mean, yes. In Costco,
Yes.
everyone can get one,
That's it. That's it. Because
you
they,
know.
okay. All right. So it's something to be said about the fact that, we have these experiences as we grow. And like I said, it's not just that the food tastes good, but it's like it's a whole experience. It's the surprise of walking in and see it on the table. It's the thank yous and hugs that you give to the family because it's about to go down with these snacks. It's the showing off the snacks to the friends when you get to the place you go into. Because listen, everybody ain't got one of these. Everybody ain't got one of
Your
these, but I got one.
son, I'm thinking about what your son said in one of his recent interviews. He said, family is education. And the excitement is because there's a knowing that I have about that Danish that relates to my community that I belong to. It's not,
Mm,
you're right. It's not just that Danish. It's what the Danish means in the community. It means that someone went and bought this for me, knowing I love this. And we don't usually get this because I know who I am. I know where I'm at. I'm aware. That rhythm of that's a comfort. You're right. That's
that's it.
exactly what we're looking for.
Listen, I'm a eventually I'm gonna get to this place where I can clearly articulate it, across experiences. But I'm having these conversations and the ideas they coming to me. But there's something to be said about that intersection, food, culture, and ambition that's really creating some incredible people that I think there's a gap in appreciation for what it means in our community, but we're gonna
Mm.
work on it. That's
You're
it.
doing it. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for staying strong and leading the way. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. And making the articulation is giving everyone else a language. We don't have to
Mm,
grapple with it so much. You make it clear. And that I'm really grateful for you doing that and sharing your platform with just the community so that they can see that.
of course, of course. Listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's what it's all about. Listen, you keep doing your thing. I appreciate you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what the future holds for the community that we're serving. Because big things is coming.
Right on.
That's for sure. You keep doing your thing. We'll talk soon, all right?
All right.